And good evening from Matt Dean. We have a Friday night sports special here on BBC Radio Humberside in association with Grimsby Town Football Club. We're delighted to bring you a Grimsby Town fans forum live from McMenamin's restaurant here at Blundell Park.
BBC Radio Humberside Sport.
Welcome along. Without further ado, let's introduce this evening's panel, starting with the man who made a name for himself as a serial tech entrepreneur. Although in recent weeks, he's come to appreciate that finding a fix for Town's managerial position is more tricky than turning his computer off and then back on again. Many have said he's a Mariners Match.com made in heaven. Ladies and gentlemen, Town chair and co-owner Jason Stockwood. Now, our next guest came to the club having been area CEO at the YMCA. She knew it was a big job, much more than dealing with village people. I'll spare you the song if you spare me the dance. But in a YMCA sort of way, please put your hands together for Town CEO Debbie Cook. Our third panellist is the son of a revered Grimsby butcher who grew up watching award-winning sausages being made. So he knows a thing or two about a banger. I suspect he no longer drives one these days, having become a successful owner of a private equity business. His chops are well known around here these days. Please welcome Town Vice Chair and co-owner Andrew Pettit. And last but not least, the unbeaten interim duo who've steadied the ship since Paul Hurst's departure. You didn't expect anything else, did you, really, from them? From two club stalwarts. Tonight, they've even ditched their club tracksuits for the first time since the end of last month. Please show your appreciation for Sean Pearson and Ben Davis. So that's your lineup. Let's get into it. Please keep your questions brief, keep your language moderate, and let's enjoy it. For the next 2 hours, it's a Friday night sports special here on BBC Radio Humberside with me, Matt Dean, and a packed audience of Grimsby Town fans.
BBC Radio Humberside Sport.
Well, it's nice to see so many people in the room here at McMenamin's. We've got about 100, 150, something like that. It's a cold, cold night, isn't it? And I did think that it might be an evening to wear a turtleneck jumper and a leather jacket, but then I decided better of it. So we've got lots of people waiting in the wings and waiting to ask lots of questions. And there are some burning questions, of course. Over the last 24 hours, there's been so much speculation around who the next manager will be. So, Jason, nice to see you.
I think there's more speculation who's writing your material at the moment, Matt.
Yeah, they probably need sacking, actually.
See what I mean?
That, yeah.
No comment on that. We need to see more of that, I think. So,
Yeah. Are you keeping well, by the way?
I'm really well, yeah, actually. That's it's been a good few weeks. So, yeah, look, thanks for coming out tonight. That's the first and foremost thing to say. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, most of it off Twitter and social media. There's nothing to announce tonight, unfortunately. We're working really hard on the process, and we've talked about that over the last few weeks. We're getting pretty close. The issue is when speculation starts and it happens in the market, then actually we lose a lot of our leverage. So we've got a couple of candidates that we're down to now, and they'll both improve the football club. But ultimately, what we've got to do is we've got to make sure the last-minute negotiations get a deal signed. And Andrew and I have done a number of deals throughout our careers, and things can go awry at the last minute. So, no, would have loved to be able to hear tonight and have some news for you, but it'll take as long as it takes, as I said at the beginning a few weeks ago. But we're confident that we'll get someone in that'll improve the football club, and that hopefully will be, in the coming week.
If you believe social media, Jason, it was nailed on to be David Artell.
That's why
what would you say to that?
That's why you shouldn't believe social media, isn't it, really? Thank you, John Tonda, by the way. Yeah, that's, look, ultimately, it's football. We all love it. We want to speculate. Well, I did it as a fan. I do it as a fan now. But ultimately, what we're trying to do, and I hope people realise after nearly 3 years, it matters to us, this football club. It matters to us who we get in. We're trying to run a really professional process to make sure we make a decision for someone that will be around and improve this club over the next few years. But look, the speculation situation is what it is, and we don't mind that. But I've come off social media in the last couple of weeks. I dip in now and again, just because there's a lot of noise. And what we're trying to do is trying to run a really clear process, which gets the best person in the football club. But look, it's all part of the game, our opinions, and it's a bit of fun. But yeah, don't believe everything you read on social media is the punchline.
As his name is out there, though, is it David Artell?
Well, we can't name it. I mean, ultimately what we've said is, like, every time someone's name comes out in the media, if we were trying to get ahead of that, we'd spend all of our time commenting. And actually, if it was, and I'm not saying it was, by the way, we really weaken our negotiation position, because we're dealing with agents, and every time someone feels like they're bolted on for a job, and they feel like they've got us into a position where we have to say yes to everything, guess what? Demands, prices go up. So we've run a process where we've got to the last minute and we've got a few people in that. And that's the way we want a competitive tension, to make sure we get a good person in, but we don't have to basically do it on their own terms as well. So I would never comment on anyone ever, but I don't mind people speculating.
Andrew, how are you finding the process at the moment?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting process to follow. Very different to, I'd say, a normal business process when you're hiring a senior person. Because a lot of other criteria that you have to think about, and we've been looking at the usual sort of making sure there's a proper alignment of values, making sure we've got someone who's going to take the youth side of the club seriously, making sure that someone who's going to be vested in the community and sort of buys into the journey and the strategy that we want to follow as a club. So we're aligning that obviously with the qualities that we're looking for in terms of success, at or above our level, and where there's someone in there that can improve the organisation. I mean, I would like to echo what you said earlier on about Sean and Ben, having done such a fantastic job for us over the last 4 games, and they'll definitely be taking the game tomorrow against Sutton United, and they've already promised us a 6-0 win. So we're looking forward to that.
Ben and Sean, have you enjoyed it?
First and foremost, thanks for the support that you've shown me and Sean, and obviously the boys, over the last 4 or 5 weeks since we've been doing it. It's very much appreciated by obviously ourselves, the staff and the boys. In terms of enjoyed it, it's been an honour. With both of us obviously had clear attachments to the club over the last 7 years, really. Sean possibly a bit longer, but it's been an honour and filled us with pride. And the biggest thing for us is the lads have been different class with us and given it everything they've got. And the staff have been different class with us as well, and that's all we could have asked for in terms of when we started doing it. But as a process, we've got a few things wrong, but on the whole, I think the majority, we've got some things right and that we're pleased with.
Sean?
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. Yeah, it's been tiring, it's been full on, but it's been fantastic, and it's been an experience that I think both of us have taken a lot from. I just reiterate a couple of things what Ben said there, is in terms of the staff have been absolutely top draw for us. Mason, the young analyst, getting phone calls off me at 10:30 nearly every night, probably, just to make sure we're prepared the best we can be. So and then the players have obviously bought in fantastically well, and as you can tell, I'm starting to lose my voice this week. So it's obviously starting to take its toll already.
Yeah, not a great time to lose your voice at the start of a fans forum.
I know it's been absolutely fantastic, and an experience that has definitely given me an appetite for it long term. I think is without a doubt it's something that I've always thought I wanted to go into doing, and until you sort of have an experience of doing it, you don't really know, I don't think. And having been fortunate enough to obviously do this with Ben now 100% long term in the future, it's something I would hope to do one day.
Well, you've dealt with it very well so far. We'll come to the questions in a moment. But Debbie, how full on have the last few weeks been for you?
Yeah, it's been really full on. It's it's been an interesting few weeks. But what I'm really pleased about is that I felt, as an organisation, hopefully as our supporters would expect, we were prepared. I think as a football club, you've always got to be prepared for that circumstance. You never know when you might lose a manager, and so it's interesting that some of the feedback has been that just the fact that we'd given some pre-consideration to a person specification for what qualities we were looking for in particular was new to some people. So I feel like we've been really thorough and professional in the process. So that's been interesting. Obviously, the first time that the three of us have been through that. So and then I guess I would just want to, while I've got the opportunity, to thank Sean and Ben, because the last 4 weeks, they've been a joy around the training ground. The players are, it's noisy, it's buzzing. The team have worked so hard. And it's just an amazing environment to be around, and they have to take credit for that.
I'll just add to that, actually, just so we're really clear, a condition of who comes in will be these boys will be included in that, and part of that fixture going forward. So I think it's worth sharing that. I think there's a lot of credit should be given. So, and again, we've got some details to iron out, but that's a condition for us. Is they're such a big part of our success over the last few weeks and over the history of this club, and part of the DNA. So that's a big part of what we're trying to hire someone in to do.
Okay, we've got a stack of questions that have been sent in so far. Just to be clear, this is how it'll work. We'll take random questions from those ticket holders here in attendance this evening, and from those submitted in advance via the club website, which has been done to give the panel the best chance of being armed with the facts to answer those questions. So to be clear, we won't be taking any via BBC Radio Humberside channels this evening. So do stick your arm up in the air if you want to ask a question tonight. John Tonder is on roving mic duty. Who wants to go first? This gentleman down here, I can see an arm. Gentleman with the glasses. John Tonder's creeping up behind you. There you go, there's the microphone.
Just say who the name as well.
Yeah,
so
can you give us your name, please, first of all, sir?
Jace.
Jason, nice to see you tonight.
Are you all right? Question for Sean, really. You've already just answered it, to be honest, but I'd imagine 4 weeks is quite a short time, but it's quite a long time as well. Did you ever envisage yourself having a career as management? And if so, I mean, my mate Wayne here, he's got an affiliation with Wrexham. You're well thought of there as you are here, and there's a reason for that, because you're level-headed, grounded, you appreciate the community, you get involved. And ideally, I think I speak for a lot.
Jace, can you stop there? You're trying to give him a job interview.
Well, funny enough, I think ideally, you've just answered it, we'd all like Sean to stay and be here long term. And I've got a thing about managers coming back because of what happens with the fans. But I think Sean's got a potentially career here as a manager as well. And I think a lot of people would like to see it.
Thank you for the kind words, first and foremost. I think what's important for me is 100% all them things you spoke about there are important, but ultimately I want to be included as part of anything moving forwards, because people believe in the talent that I've got on this side of the game, if you see what I mean as well. So 100% all them values, I think it's been clear to see over my time here, are important to me, and important that whoever I'm working for and with, that we all sort of buy into that. But at the same time, actually, I like to think over the last few weeks, especially the people around, and not just only myself, but Ben as well, and the team we've worked with, actually, they've seen our talents as in terms of what we can bring, actually, as in terms of preparing the team, helping the players, preparing, reviewing, all that side of it as well. And that, I think that is really, really important. You know, I'd never want to be part of something just because I'm a good person or just because of them other parts. I want to be part of it because people believe I'm good enough to be a part of it, as in terms of that skill set as well. So that's always the big part for me, you know. And like I say, hopefully one day, I think, you know, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't given me the appetite to hopefully pursue it one day in the future.
Does that answer your question, Jason? Thanks for asking it. This is from Tommy Webster, who sent us a message. He's a season ticket holder to Jason and Andrew. Last season was one of the best I remember in my years watching Grimsby Town. I feel like there was, or should have been, massive potential to really kick on this year. I, for one, was okay with the transfer business as a whole. Why do you think we've struggled to take advantage of last season's success and really push on this year? In the close season, I could have never imagined being at Blundell Park this early in the season, at best thinking the season is already over, and at worst, fearing being in a relegation battle come the end of the season. Which of you wants to take that one?
I'll take it to start with, if you like. I'm sure Jason will add to it. Look, I mean, I think we all know that football's a game of fine margins, and you know, we've definitely been on the wrong side of some fine margins this season. But ultimately, the results in the first part of the season weren't sufficiently good, and you know, we definitely agree with that. We're of the opinion, which I think is shared hopefully by most people in this room, that we have a squad that is better than the squad that we were assembled for last season, and it's been a question of getting a tune out of that squad in the way that hopefully will drive us further up the table. I think the last few games have demonstrated with perhaps a new voice in the dressing room has helped to sort of galvanise that group. And whilst we really appreciate everything that Paul and Chris did during their time here, we just felt it was time for a change, and therefore they had to make the very difficult call to change leadership.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a bit for me around. I think as we're learning what it's like to be involved with a football club, and we're trying to take a lot of external input on what good looks like and what best practice looks like, I think there's one thing that comes through really loud and clear is clarity of game model. So how you want to play, how that's communicated right through your academy, actually, through to your first team. And so, I think having a really clear vision is what we've seen, particularly in the last few weeks, about we won't always win. We all know that. We take that as fans, right? We'll have good days and bad days. But I think if we know what we're trying to achieve and the players have an easily communicated model of what we're trying to achieve. But again, I think, look, we think there's a real opportunity to improve. I think there's a really competitive league this year. I think there's a lot of people outspending us by orders of magnitude. It's a really strong league, and I love that, by the way. I like being places where if you win something, you're valued by winning something that's super competitive. But it's there aren't any particularly bad teams in this league this year. There's usually a few that really stand out. Anyone can beat anyone on their day. I think Morecambe game was a good example of that. So I think there's something about this next stage of our journey where we think having clarity of how the team wants to play, and that being communicated right through our training sessions and ultimately into the academy and all the way through is where we'll get to. I think we've had a lot of success, and we're incredibly grateful for Chris and Paul in what they did. But I think the next stage of the journey will be a bit different as a result of that, and that's really what we were seeing. We said we know we've got the talent in the building is better. And I think, again, no disrespect to the players we've had previously, but there's a better quality technically of player. And I think so now it's having a clear vision of how we want them to play. I think we've seen a bit of that in the last few weeks.
Just to return to Tommy's question, why do you think the team have struggled early part of the season? What's your theory?
What I just stated actually, just about I think clarity of message.
Right. Okay.
I think what we want to do is we want to go and represent the town and play in a certain fashion, attractive attacking football, possession-based football. And I think sometimes we've gone back to just trying to win. I know that sounds kind of contradictory. We want to win every game, right? But actually, just telling players just to go out and try and win isn't a strategy. You need to have a performance model where people are knowing how they need to perform, and then you win more often than not. I think that's our belief, and that's when you talk to people at the top of the game, that's the model that is executed on, I think. And so, but look, the reality is it is. You scratch your heads at some performances this year and look at games we should have won. I think why we got to the decision where we did on the manager was that there was just a consistency of games where we were looking and talking about games where we should have got more out of them, and that becomes a pattern. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we set out at the beginning of the season the number of points per game we wanted to get over an average, not meaning 3 points there, one, on average what we need to get. And we had the worst form in the league on points per game. And so we were looking at that, and then there were just some games where we were going out there and we believe in a type of football that you go out and you play your game. Whoever you're playing, and that doesn't mean you'll win, but at least you know what you're trying to do. I think there were certain games where we were trying to nullify opponents more than trying to get out there and win games. And I think that's just about clarity and owning that collectively. I think we've got a bit away from collective ownership, which we believe in, which is it shouldn't just be on the manager to decide that. And look, and Paul came into the club slightly before us, but again, it's been brilliant for us in educating us on what's possible in the game. I think for the levels we want to get to, I think that clarity of what the club represents and clarity of game model is going to be really critical. But that's the long-winded answer of saying, look, it's football as well. Who knows, really? If we knew why we were here and it was as simple as that, we'd just change that. But
I mean, if you look at the first day of the season when it started, you had 5-1. 5 goals put past Wrexham, 5 goals put past Notts County by Sutton United and MK Dons. So it's a very difficult league. So.
I think it's worth saying as well that this question is something that we ask ourselves all the time. In that spirit of continuous improvement right across the football club, whether we're doing well in the league or whether we're not doing so well, we're constantly asking how can we improve and what can we make better. So, there are things that we will focus on. For example, one of the improvements we made over the summer was to double up the resource that we had in rehabilitation. Now, we can't measure that at the moment, but what we do know is we're seeing less injuries currently than we've had in a long time. you know, we might look at working with a psychologist, we might look at working with a nutritionist. So behind the scenes, we're constantly looking at what are these things that we could do that would make small margins of difference that might help the squad. And that goes on all the time, not just when things aren't going so well, because we see that as absolutely part of who we are.
Is it hard to keep up with other clubs? Because all clubs across the land are trying to do the same thing, aren't they?
I mean, this is the point, right? We want to focus on what we're trying to do, and I think if you've got a clear plan, which we have, if you've got good people in the organisation, which we have, if we can say we're going to keep improving the playing style, the playing squad, the infrastructure, and trying to keep continually improve, which you're committing to, then you've got to believe that over time that'll reap dividends, right? So we're focused on that. There's a reality into the market we're in, right? It's like when you've got, the top 4 teams in this budget trying to spend their way up to the championship, but ultimately we also know that on any day we can beat any team, because we've shown that historically. We've definitely shown that over the last few years. So look, I think Andrew say the same. Like, conscious to what you said at the beginning, there's more to being an entrepreneur than flicking buttons on and off. But that aside, I actually think that we've had clear plans in our businesses, and I think if you keep doing the right things and focusing on your own game, then you can be successful. I think we think the same about this business as well.
Next question from the floor. John Tonder's got a gentleman with him. What's your name, sir?
Steve.
Hi, Steve.
I think we've got a great squad, but we're not getting the best out of them. But the question is about the academy. That are we going to get the young players who've already signed up? Are we going to get them on the field for say 10 or 15 minutes playing to develop them? And also we're going to look across all over and find these gems, from wherever you can find. Might not be top league, but they're still good enough for Grimsby. Are we going to sort of hoover some players in and get some good players in?
Well, I think there's 2 answers to that. I think historically, I think Grimsby as a town has done really well at attracting talent, and credit to Neil Woods and the team down at Cheapside. Is like we've got some phenomenal young kids in the academy. I think the idea is, has it been as joined up? Like when we bring kids into the academy, a pathway to the first team? I think the answer is no. And that's what we're trying to resolve now, is saying, look, what's the style of football for the football club overall? The kid coming in at 7 or 8 can be trained in a certain way. So when they get to 16, 17, there's a real prospect of them being able to have a chance against the first team. And if we're being honest, there hasn't been that been mapped out fully, and we've tried to correct that. I don't agree with the comment about not getting the right talent in there. I think we've got a really good group of young players coming through. Whether they've had the chance in the first team is a fair point.
Try to go and look further afield. And it's right, it said about getting the lads that signed up, getting them in for 10 or 15 minutes on games regular, to develop them more.
I think one of the biggest challenges we have, Grimsby, is in terms of academy and young players coming through. And I've obviously worked in the academy every year that I've been here as a player, so I think I've had enough experience hands-on. Is when you get to 18, the gap between youth team football to first team football is big. It's a lot bigger than what you'd maybe think. So we have to try and bridge that gap now. Obviously, we've got 4 young pros at the minute. 3 of them are out on loan, or 3 of them have been out on loan, and it's a case of obviously trying to build their experience up whilst training with the first team. That's really important, as in terms of their exposure to first team training consistently. Then having games at the end of their week, as in terms of Aaron Braithwaite, Harvey Tomlinson, Edwin Estill, Jamie Bramwell, they're the ones I'm talking about at the minute, which then hopefully over time they continually develop, and we hope to then get them closer to our first team level. So a perfect example would be Harry Clifton. Harry Clifton come through, went out on loan to Grantham, played a full season, first team football. Harry come back and was closer and ready to play in men's first team football. Max Wright, for example, a little bit different, had to have 2 or 3 loan spells and sort of moved up the levels to build that up over a period of time, and then was ready for first team football. Now I think as a club we need to have, and I think this is what we're working towards, better plans in place of actually, right, for example, Cam Gardner we've signed now, what is the plan we're going to put in? And some of them will be quicker than others, some will take a longer period of time, some won't work out in the end. But we actually hopefully have a plan in place for these players of actually how we're going to end up with them going from that youth team football to ending up actually appearing in our first team. And then the final problem you have in academy football is the really good ones we get within the younger age groups is the bigger clubs come and take them off our hands at a younger age. Which
chance, and just even though they've been around with all the club playing with the players, you still want a chance to put them in for, say, 10 minutes or 5
Well,
minutes.
let me ask
or
the question back to you. So in the game tomorrow, would you like to see a 16-year-old kid chanced us for 10 minutes?
I don't mean that sort, but the players that have signed up, already signed players in the first team squad. They're still in the first team squad, aren't they? So if you put them on, you don't have to put them on, like say, a 16. You could put 18, 19s on for 10 minutes, couldn't you? Up front or something.
I just think, do you know what? I just think there's such a jeopardy. And I understand the sentiment, actually, which is, look, we want to see young talent coming through. I think one of the things about the football club is it's a beacon of aspiration in the town for young kids. We want kids in that shirt at 7 and 8 thinking one day I can be playing on Blunder Park on a Saturday afternoon. I think the reality, though, to date is that, you know, we want to win games and we want to play in a certain way. So I think there's a commitment to us. If they are good enough, they absolutely should be playing. But there's a reality about, you know, when you risk players as well. So I think it's a fair question, by the way. And for us, we're committed to the academy. We know what it means to the town. And we also know this, you know, what it means to have a kid from the town wearing that shirt on a Saturday afternoon. But I think it's balancing that with just saying, look, we're not going to say to any manager, we want, if we've got an 18-year-old pro, we want to give them 15 minutes each game. We want them to know that there's a plan to get people into the first team. But ultimately, that manager's got to have the autonomy to pick a team that they think can win as well.
Jason, Steve, we'll have to move on because we've got stacks and stacks of questions. Thanks very much for your question there. This is from John Lewis. Andy Holt, chair of Accrington Stanley, recently tweeted about the role gradually grinding away at him. Do you recognise the grinding effects that Andy is talking about? And is it possible to mitigate against it to protect yourselves from becoming jaded? I'll ask that one of Andrew.
Sure, I can recognise the sentiment. I mean, Andy's quite an outspoken individual, as those of you that kind of listen to him on things like the Price of Football podcast. But he's got passion about his club, and he's grown Accrington to a good level. And I listened to a podcast that he gave a couple of weeks ago, and he explained his rationale behind it, and ultimately it was a question of finance. And taking the club as far as he could take it, and he also, I think, had an issue with the manager, which the manager saying something which upset him, or the assistant manager saying something that upset him. In terms of the question about grind, I kind of try and insulate myself a little bit by staying off social media, which is I guess my choice. But I still read it, and you know, it's not to say and recognise and listen to sometimes minority voices, and it's sometimes tough to and gets frustrating to hear criticism when you know that everyone is working their hardest to do their best to take the club forward, but you also take solace from the fact that you know that when you do get negative comments, that hopefully the silent majority is understanding that everyone's doing their best to try and share the passion and share the vision that we all have to make the club better on a day-to-day basis. And Jason and my vision, from day one until the end, will be to leave the club in a better place at the end when we depart than when we found it.
Jason?
Yeah, is the short answer. I mean, I'd start by saying it's a massive privilege to do what we're doing, and we really appreciate that, and that weighs quite heavily in of itself, right? Because we want to improve the football club, we want to be useful in the town and the region. I mean, there's sort of three parts of it to me, which is sort of building what Andrew says. There's kind of like, I spend most of my time on this now, with Debbie spending all of her time and then some. So there's like, I definitely could be doing loads of other things, the career I've had, and making money in a different way. I've given all that up to do this. That's one thing. And then you go, well, we'll put my heart and soul into it as well. Like, so we're fans like everyone here. So it matters to us that this club improves. We're not financial investors in this. It's like, this is our town. It's people that we love live in the town. It's people that we know. It's our friends. It's our family. So it matters to us on a deep level. And then, the third bit is like, it's our money as well, right? It's like, we're losing money on this venture. So when you combine all those things and people are calling you out and questioning your integrity, like, I get that it's part of football, right? But
how do you deal with that?
So I've got a really good. So I'm good at shutting stuff down. So I come off social media. I'm not on there half as much as I was. So early on, I tried to communicate and use that as one way of people getting to know us. So you'll probably notice that I dip into it a couple of times a week now. And the people, it's interesting, like if I ever go in and I unmute comments, it's usually the same 20, 30 people. It's the same people. And I genuinely think about what's going on in their lives, because I worry about people who are just going online just to have a go at someone. I'm like, that's not good for your mental health and your energy and your karma. So that's one thing. Second thing, I have a really good wife and family that I can shut the door. Like when I go home, the bins still need taking out and the kids' tea still needs cooking. And they don't really care about this stuff for me. So, I've got a very normal home life, and it's always been that way for me. But like, I'd be lying to you and just say, like, just sometimes you look at it and you go, Christ, we're trying our best here. We love this place, we love the club, and we're really putting a lot of effort into it and family money, and we're still getting called out. So there'll come a point where you won't want to do it anymore. I think that's a reality. We're not there. We're nowhere near there, but I'd be lying if I didn't recognise. The other thing with Andy's thing, I think, is, and I've got a lot of respect for him, I like him, it's like, you don't need to be in every discussion. I think that's the thing about social media, is like trying to, every political point and everything about football, you don't need to get into every discussion as well. So just being careful about things that matter to you and things you can add value in, I think.
Thank you. On to the next. John Tondo's got a gentleman at the back there.
Yeah, evening, Matt. It's Graham here. Just embellishing on a point earlier, will the club be working to improve the pathway between the academy and the first team going forward? We don't have a reserve team or an under-23 team. So I just wondered, will the club be investing in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on it before. It's like we've got choices where we spend, right? So we're constantly chatting to investors, potential investors. And I think at the moment we're looking at whether, if it's just Andrew and I having to dip in our pockets, then, everything that we don't spend on the first team budget, if we go somewhere else, then people will be moaning about we're not competitive. So it's finite, right? We haven't got endless resources. We've had good careers, but we're not billionaires. So it's finite. And when I close that door and I speak to my wife, she does give me a look every now and again about what we're spending and what we should be doing. So, look, we're keen to do that, is the honest answer. So at some point, if we can raise outside capital, then I think at the level we're at, we need to create a pathway that's clearer. But in terms of having reserve and under-23s, it's not in the immediate horizon.
Is anybody serious about investing in the club?
Not really at the moment. Like what we try to do is, there's an adage in investing, which is you try and raise money when you don't try and raise money when you need it. So we've had a lot of conversations in the last few years and maybe into next year, but there's no one to announce.
Thanks, Graham, for your question.
Just quickly, sorry, on that one, Graham, we arrange for the lads who need games. We always arrange top-up games for the lads who need the minutes. Obviously, the younger pros, the 21s, we aim for them to have 25, 30 games a season on loan, which they do, which is in their progression. As Jason touched on before, in terms of the academy and coming through, we're really keen, especially obviously me and Sean and the coaches, to have a real identity of a player we have. We've got some fantastic coaches in the academy. We've got some Woodsy and Colin with some fantastic experience. The work they do, I'm lucky enough to have two lads in the academy myself, and Sean's coached the team himself. We want to bring through footballers, if you know what I mean, technically gifted footballers who can deal with the ball and play football, and the work going through in the pathway, the structure for lads coming through in the academy. They see a Clifton, and as long as we've got people like Clifton, that's the go-to. But 100% now we want to have that pathway where we're producing the same type of football, which would be a technically good passing, who can deal with the ball. But in terms of your minutes, they're all topped up on minutes. The lads are out on loan, and we have top-up games as well to keep everyone engaged. So when they come in for the first team, they've got the best platform ready to go, if you know what I mean.
You're listening to a BBC Radio Humberside Fans Forum. We're on digital 95.9 FM and Freeview 721. Also around the world on BBC Sound. Sorry, I cut across you there. Who was going to speak?
It was me, Matt. Sorry. I just wanted to, before we moved off the academy, I'm talking about the academy in our programme notes tomorrow, and I know it wasn't the nature of the question, but our youth team are doing really well at the moment. The academy have just had 2 really good inspections. It's in a great place. We've got some great players coming through. And one of the things that I always wonder is when a young lad comes through our academy and then finds themselves at Blundell Park, how do we prepare them for that? And a week on Tuesday night, they're in the FA Youth Cup taking on Notts Forest, and wouldn't it be brilliant if we could get loads of people through the gates at Blundell Park to give them that experience? So
What day is that next week?
Tuesday, the 5th of December.
Thank you. And what time's kick-off? Do you know off the
I
top
think
of
it's
your
a
head?
7 o'clock kick-off.
Okay,
I think
thank
so,
you.
yeah.
Okay,
How are the
we'll look
tickets
out.
priced, Debbie?
I think they're £3 and £5, so it's a bargain
That seems like
night
good
out.
value, doesn't it?
Really good value.
No adverts on the BBC now. Come on. John.
Hi there, Tom here. I know you mentioned at the start, and I think it was brilliant that you confirmed Sean and Ben will be staying on. I just wondered if you can confirm whether they'll be sort of in the position of joint assistant managers.
No, not going to. We're not going to. I mean, we said we'll announce stuff when we can. So, we don't want to jeopardise the next few days of negotiation and tie our hands on stuff. But look, they're important to us. They've shown they've been important to us, and they definitely will be senior members of whatever team going forward.
John Tonder's going to come round with the microphone to the front here. He's a little slow moving around these days. He'll get there eventually. Whilst he comes round, there's a question here from David Walker. Hi to all the panel. I just want to say thank you for all the hard work you've done in the short time you've been here. My question's to Debbie. In the short time you guys have been in charge, we've seemed to have had a higher than normal turnover in non-playing staff, such as David Smith, Joe Taylor, Sam Strant, Alistair Hodson, Joe Smith, Liam Emerson, to name a few. What do you put that down to?
I think this is a really interesting question, and what I would say, right from the word go, is that anything I say next, I'm not attributing to any individual that has just been listed there, because actually I can't imagine that it's particularly pleasant for them to keep having their names brought up at forums like this either. But, football has quite a high turnover generally. I think it's been unusual at Grimsby Town, but across the game, football has quite a high turnover. When you look at some of the people on that list, some of them have gone on to great promotions, and that's brilliant. When you look at other people on that list, you'll see that they're already back in the club doing some extra work for us. We've gone through a period of significant transformation over the last couple of years, and that isn't always for everyone. I think the best question to ask is of the people that are here and working here. Just a couple of weeks ago, for example, we had somebody from the EFL that came into the club and said, "Wow, you must be so proud of this club. I've spoke to so many of your staff today. They're happy. It's like a family. It feels great, and I don't see that everywhere I go." And just at the midpoint of this year, we did a staff engagement survey, and the results were world class. So I think let's ask the people that work here. I can't comment on the people that aren't here, but I can say we've gone through a massive period of change and improvement, and that always won't be for everyone.
In fact, just to build on what Debbie said there, the first day we came into the business, I spoke to all the team, and Debbie wasn't here then, and I said to them, I've been in this situation in businesses many times before. A lot of you won't want to come on the journey. It'll be different. I guarantee it'll be different. And it has been very different. So, again, I think what's implicit in the question is there's something weird going on. That's where, and I think Debbie's done a particularly good answer there, but it's just the implication there's something odd going on behind the scenes. And I've hoped that we've shown in the last couple of years, we try to be transparent about who we are and what we're trying to do in the organisation and act in good faith. Look at our careers, look at our backgrounds. A lot of it's in the public domain. We've run good businesses at scale by treating people well. So it's just this is one example where it grinds you, because the implication is there's something nefarious going on. And as Debbie says, some of those people have gone to bigger things. Some people have gone sideways, and some people have been moved on, right? So, but there's nothing wrong. That's a normal state of a transformation business as well. But that's one of the sort of grindy things, which is there's something weird going on behind the scenes, and there isn't.
Well, thanks for answering the question. Question from the front here, John. Your name is?
Steve Bloy.
Hi, Steve.
My question's quite simple. Andrew, Jason and Debbie, you've talked very much about where you want to take the club, the strategic direction, getting the systems in place, continuous improvement, all the usual business metrics, if you like. The people that complain on Praise and Grumble and social media, what they're bothered about is what happens out there on the pitch. And we talked earlier on about we've got some decent signings from the summer. We've got some good players. Those good players don't suddenly become bad players. But we all know we went through a period where we couldn't get a point for love nor money. And this is a question for Ben and Sean. What on earth did you do to get those players that everybody wanted to kick into touch to suddenly start playing decent football, getting the crowds excited. So no matter what Andrew, Jason and you're doing, Debbie, what the crowds are interested in is what these two guys have been doing over the last 4 weeks. So just, if you can, address the rumours that the dressing room had been lost. There was conflict in the dressing room. And all this sort of stuff is nonsense that comes onto social media. But you two have clearly done something, and you've got those guys playing, and playing very good football. And I have to say this. Last Saturday, I was there last Saturday. 2 months ago, we would not have come back from being 2-0 down. But the way the lads just got stuck in, and we really should have won on Saturday. So really, Ben and Sean, I'd just love to know, what did you have to pick up when you took over, and how have you managed it?
I think one of the biggest things for us, I think the first thing to say is I personally don't think at any point the players ever stopped playing for the previous manager. I don't buy that one bit. I think if you look at the results, the performances weren't great, 100%. But the results, we weren't getting hammered. We didn't lose 5-0 at Doncaster, for example. It's fine margins. That was a penalty. So I don't think the players stopped playing for the manager, so to speak. What I would say is, without a doubt, they were low on confidence, as in terms of which happens with results and things like that. And I think we've just had a different approach. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in football. Paul Hurst is much more successful than what we've been. So, we've had 4 games. He's had many years. So that's nothing against him as in terms of anything like that. We've just gone for a slightly different approach, tried to slowly build the players back up. So I look at the first game, for example, the first week training we had, Ben would back me up on this, we thought was fantastic. It was probably the most confident out of all the 4 games I was going into. But for whatever reason, the performance wasn't that great in the first game. Second half was better, 100%. So then we were sort of scratching our heads a little bit after that, as in terms of, well, we thought we'd got the players in a certain place. Why did that not happen? But what we sort of persisted with we had our plan in our head of how we were going to approach training the week. We've had some conversations with certain individuals which we feel has benefited them personally. And I think what slowly happened in the training sessions and the games, the results always help, is that slowly just a bit of confidence and a bit of belief in what they're trying to do has come back to them. What you have to then do with that is you hope the fine margins in games go for you. So, for example, last week, and I think you earn your luck. So last week, 2-0 down, 2-2. Actually, in the last 5 minutes, we could have lost that game as well. And we were fortunate that them fine moments went for us. But I think what has happened over the last couple of weeks is actually the players have earned that little bit of luck, and then just also sort of trying to, when we have a negative thing, so Morecambe at home, 1-0 down after a minute, our first league game, like you almost couldn't think of a worse start, absolute nightmare, is actually not to compound sort of one bad moment to turn into another bad moment, to turn into another bad moment, which sometimes I think some of them would allow to happen. So we've just tried to sort of approach that and change the mindset a little bit, as in terms of, well, that's going to happen at times. Well, actually, how can we then deal with that? And that was the same last week, as in terms of actually the first half, I thought we played really well to start with. Sort of 2 sloppy goals, more from in possession. I know a lot of people talk about defending. Actually, we give the ball away, we was in comfortable possession, give it away cheaply. But actually, all right, get to half time, sort of refocus, clear message of what we're going to do second half. How can we go about this? And the pleasing thing was the players then carried that out and obviously got the result. And I think just we've had a clear identity of what we wanted to go after from the first sort of, was it the Sunday? I think he told us we were going to do the job. We had a meeting as a staff on Monday. Well, how are we going to go about this? How are we going to approach it? And we had a real clear, we got it clear that day, and we've just gone after it consistently. Is probably the biggest thing over the 4 weeks. So
Andrew would like to add something here.
Sorry, from my point of view, you answered the kind of question how we've gone about it. In 4 weeks ago, we stood in front of the lads, and we do so many good things as a football club community. Obviously, we've got the backing, but ultimately, as a football club, you get judged at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and the people who get judged are the players. So we put on a structure and which allowed them to go and perform to their maximum of their ability. You're 100% right. They're a great group of footballers. They're a great group of lads. There was no trouble in the dressing room ever before. They were low on confidence, they were down, and we recognised that and we had to pick them up. But the biggest thing we had, me and Sean kind of stamped on it. It was we were aligned. I mean, you could have had Sean going one way, me and the other, but we both exactly the same beliefs of football in terms of we've got a group of players in there who can play football, who can do, in terms of what we wanted to do, control a game of football. And I think a little bit before there were certain instances in a game, set Doncaster, Gav brings him down for a penalty, and certain instances in game define the whole game. But we gave them a freedom that if someone makes a mistake, if someone gets caught on the ball, Greenie, that's on us, that's what we want you to do, go and do it again. So one instant can't define a game because we want to control the ball, we want to have possession of the ball, we want to get numbers forward. And yeah, we've got a bit of stick because we've conceded goals, and yeah, we've conceded too many goals, but what we want to ultimately do is we want an attacking team that play good football and press on the front foot. But the biggest thing, again, what we reiterated to them is at 3 o'clock, the football club gets judged by the footballers we've got. And what we have got at the minute is a fantastic group of young professional footballers who are giving absolutely everything they've got for the club.
The voices of Ben Davies and Sean Pearson answering that question from Steve. Thank you for that. We've also got Jason Stockwood, Andrew Pettit and Debbie Cook on the panel here at this Grimsby Town Fans Forum live on BBC Radio Humberside. Jay Pawley has sent us a message. Where do you see the club in the next 5 years in terms of the level which you expect us to be playing at? Jason.
God, if I knew what 5 years were, I'd have lottery numbers picked, wouldn't I? It'd be like, I think for us, I mean, it's dangerous, isn't it, to say you want to be in a certain place by a certain time. I think historically that's shown not to be a good way to position yourself with anything. I think, look, we want to improve. We're not happy where we are today. We think this club, this town deserves to be higher up the divisions, and that's our objective. But we'll never, while we're involved, we'll never state by a certain date we'll be somewhere, because so many of the variables are out of our control. What I would say is we're committed to trying to make that happen, is improve the football club, improve our league standing, and improve the attractiveness of the football so that people, you know, feel excited about coming on a Saturday afternoon, which is the important time. But yeah, and all the time we'll be here, we'll never state that we'll be somewhere by a certain date. Can't believe my brother's leaving halfway through. That's some sort of comment on the quality of my answers, isn't it? My own family can't be bothered to stay. Brilliant.
Don't take it personally, Jason. Richard Albury has sent a message. Since buying the club, has there ever been a moment where you've wondered why you bought a football club or even regretted the decision? Andrew?
Oh, every day, I think. No, it's as we said many times before. It's definitely different to regular business, but then similar in other ways. But every day's a challenge. You know, we're still amateurs in football, but learning every day, and we're students of football, both as fans, but also now as custodians of our great club. So yeah, there are definitely days of regret, and then there are days like we had last season, the season before, of immense joy. So you know, that's why we're all here.
Thanks, Andrew. John?
I'd say mine's every day and twice on Sundays.
Question here in the middle. Can you just pass over the microphone? Oh, well, in fact, there's two people who want a question here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Your name is?
My name's Harrison.
Hi there.
You're right. Can I just say congratulations on whatever it is you're doing? It's done brilliantly. Just coming away from the pitch though for a second, where do you see the club going in 5 years' time in terms of community events, etc.? And would you ever consider investing in a sensory room stroke area for disabled supporters within the family bar fan zone, please? Thank you.
So thanks for the question. We couldn't be more committed to the community. You know, when Jason and Andrew bought the football club and they asked me to come on board as chief exec, we were really clear that we wanted to see this football club as the anchor for the town, that anchor institution that is absolutely mobilising a community. In terms of our journey of improvement, we've had to do some improvement work across the GT set. You probably heard us talking about the Grimsby Town Foundation. it's the same organisation. We're talking to the Charity Commission about changing that name thanks to the vote of the supporters. So we absolutely are on a journey to improve our community offering, but there's so much that is going on behind the scenes in the community that we've improved on, and you'll start to see a lot more of that now coming through our social media channels. Anybody that's involved behind the scenes with the football is committed to getting players to events, getting players into schools. So all of that will happen, and we're just on the cusp of some really exciting community projects. In terms of a sensory room and facilities for disabled people, then we've been talking to the group of disabled supporters for some time around the improvements that we could make, and that needs to be considered in the round in terms of all the improvements we need to make at Blundell Park. So we've engaged with those supporters. We continue that dialogue. It's something that we would love to see happen, but it has to be at the right time to make sure we get, sort of good coordinated use of resources.
Thanks for the question.
Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Basically for Sean and Ben, one of my big things is listening to you guys before a match. And I'm really, really pleased to listen to the pre-match that there's no negativity between what our players can do and what other teams can do. I listened to Sean the other week. We're going to here, we're going to do this. And somebody asked the question of, well, what about their team? Well, Sean answered it correctly. I've got the players that can beat that team. And just thank God for that we've got somebody that can get away from that negativity.
Oh, yeah, we had it today, actually. We were working on a couple of set plays, and one of the lads said, but what if it doesn't work? So then I said back to him, yeah, but what if it does? It's kind of, we're positive people, and we're very much, what if it does work, lads, what if it doesn't? And like I said, they've kind of bought into everything we've given them, which is the biggest thing. The first and foremost, me and Sean can have all the ideas or whatever in the world that they have to have buy-in, and they have. But like I said, the attitude, me and Sean are the most positive people there is. That's just the way we are. But we're very much from a case of, yeah, but what if it does work? And they've taken that on board. And obviously, like I said before, we're pleased with how they've reacted to us.
I think just touching on that, I think you're obviously probably getting at the previous manager a little bit, is in terms of what I would say is.
Sean, it was always about what the other team were going to do.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. All I would say is it wasn't like that behind closed doors all the time. I obviously had a good relationship with him, so probably a little bit defensive with him. But he wasn't. We weren't as successful as we was just because of that. So. But I think, like you said, no, without a doubt, I think, and I said this to players on the first day, me and Ben spoke to players as in terms of taking this position, anything we do is not a reflection of anything before, it's just our ideas and our way of how we think we should do it. There's no, the beautiful thing in football really is there's no right or wrong really, there's just what sort of determines it is the fine margin of a result on a Saturday. Everybody thinks you're right because you win and everybody thinks you're wrong because you lose, but in reality, if we'd have lost all 4 games, my beliefs in what I want to see, what we want to see it wouldn't have changed. I have strong beliefs of how I want to see a team play, things like that. Ben has his own way. The results in the long term, 100%, probably give you a fair reflection of where you're at. But it's our beliefs wouldn't change. And I think it's just important that I just wanted to clarify that that's not a reflection of anything before. It's just the way we see it. Is what I'm trying to get to. No, 100%. Yeah, that's great. That's great. No.
My brother does a lot of teams. He's had a lot of teams. Yeah. Youngers, and for somebody to come through feeling negative.
Yeah.
Debbie, Andrew, and the Gaffer has also said the same thing.
Yeah.
Negativity breeds negativity. Where what you've done up to now sounds good for the fans as well.
No, yeah.
That they're not feeling that.
Yeah. No, I think the players have bought into what we've tried to.
Thanks for the question. 4 minutes time, we'll take a break for the news, and it'll give you an opportunity to go to the loo or the bar, whichever you prefer. Carl Gladwell has asked this question: do we have plans for a pre-season tour for next summer? So Carl's already dreaming of warmer weather. can't blame him, really, can you?
Can't blame him at all. Yeah, so we started discussions with the first team staff about next season's pre-season as soon as this pre-season finished. Obviously, we're in a period now where we need to answer a few questions, and then we'll crack on with those arrangements. But you can be assured that we're planning that right now. We absolutely have heard the fans would like to be more involved in that, and we'll do what we can.
Did you establish that there will be a seat at the front of the plane for BBC Radio Humberside?
Of course, Matt, of course.
You might want to think of the destination first, Matt, before you commit to that. It will not be Ibiza or Magaluf. We can shut that down straight away. If you want to go and knock yourselves out, that's absolutely fine. It's not the best places for football season preparation, I'm told.
I do actually think that it's probably the most important thing that we do all season. I've been fortunate in the 3 seasons that I've started to go to. I went to Mottram Hall and I went to Spain for a couple of days with the lads this year, and the value of that in terms of team building and that togetherness was just wonderful to witness. They work really hard while they're there, but those relationships that are established, I'm absolutely certain sees them through, and that's what builds the great camaraderie. And I know, people will say that, but having seen that, I think it's probably some of the best resources that we'll spend across the club.
Although Andrew and I did suggest a weekend at the Fitters as just to keep the cost down, but it wasn't well received.
Right, we've got 2 minutes before the news, so you maybe have to be quite succinct with the way you answer this. Nick Bray says, will the view of the pitch from the main stand be improved as a result of the planned work on the main stand?
I think the short answer is yes. The planned work on the main stand, again, we're still evaluating a couple of options, but one way or the other, the view will be improved, I think, is a succinct answer. If we remain with the stand as it is today, then the idea is to replace a number of the columns that currently block. I know John in particular has complained on a number of occasions about the view from the press box. The idea will be to replace some of the existing columns with a smaller number. So should hopefully be an improvement.
Have you got an idea when that might be done?
Next close season.
Okay, right. And is it a big job?
Yes.
Expensive job.
An expensive job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, we are coming up to the news, so if you want to take a break, please feel free to do so. BBC Radio Humberside with the Grimsby Town Fans Forum on digital, FM, Freeview 721 through your TV set, and also via BBC Sounds. It's Matt Dean hosting tonight. We're through until 9 o'clock. Thanks very much for your company. Don't forget, we've got commentary of Grimsby Town at home to Sutton United on digital radio on Saturday Sport tomorrow. The programme is underway from 2 o'clock, so tune our way for that. We'll be back the other side of the news. The second and final hour of the Grimsby Town Fans Forum, live from McMenamin's. But we've got a packed room of Grimsby Town fans.
Sports coaching, but only if I'm...
It is packed, believe me. People are just making their way back to the seats at the moment, so we will continue with the questions which have been submitted. This is from Trevor, who says, whilst the ambition is to make GTFC a truly community-based club, has there been any consideration to selling naming rights to Blundell Park to generate much welcome additional income? Question for Debbie.
Yes, it was a question that we asked in the fan engagement survey earlier this year, because we wanted to check with our supporters whether they would be happy if we had a named Blundell Park Stadium, and the fans said that they would prefer that. We're really confident that our commercial deals that we've had in the last couple of years are better than those that we had before. But ultimately, stadium naming rights come with a price, and not all some companies are struggling. So we're actively having those conversations with companies all the time. We want to bring more income into the club. So if there are companies out there that want to talk to us, we want to talk to you.
How difficult is it at the moment, given the economic climate at the moment, commercially for you?
It's really difficult. Yeah, it's really difficult. And I should just say that week on week, we're trying to improve what we can offer our commercial partners. So anybody that's associated commercially with the club will have seen that we've improved that in the last month alone. And we're really grateful for the support that we have from local businesses, particularly because we know it's a tough time. But, there's so much advantage to a company getting involved with Grimsby Town. We have 70,000 followers on Twitter that we can market your business to for relatively low expense. So the more companies that can get involved, the more that money will go into resourcing the football club, which is what everybody wants.
Thanks, Debbie. Debbie's on the panel tonight. Jason Stockwood, Andrew Pettit, Sean Pearson and Ben Davis also here taking your questions. If you've got a question, if you just put your arm up in the air, John Tonder will make his way across to you. In the meantime, I'll just ask this question from Tom Carr. He says, this season's budget was increased due to our history-making FA Cup run last season and the prize money earned. If we don't make the later rounds this season, will our budget decrease for next season or will it at least be matched?
I mean, we haven't got that far. We're going to look at the budget again as we get into January. I don't imagine so, is the honest answer. Not where we're sat today, but it depends on league position. It depends, where we are at the end of the season if we can kick on again. But I think my best answer would be probably not, but we'll do the budget in January and February.
Andy Gilling says, do we have any funds available to help strengthen the team in January?
Well, that's going to be a question of money in, money out. So if we have to move some players on to bring some players in, as we sit here today.
Thank you. John Tonder.
Hi there, name's Danny. I asked the same question in February, so sorry for not being very creative. But I'm just wondering what the update is on the new training facility, please. Is that still something you're wanting to pursue? I know back then you said that you'd sort of preferred a location. It was in with the solicitors. So just wondering where we are with that, please, and is that going to happen?
Thanks,
sure.
Danny.
Yeah, happy to take that one. It's fair to say that the original location that we were looking at has fallen away, but I'm pleased to say we have agreed terms on a second location, which actually, in retrospect, is actually better than the first one we were looking at. So actually, fortune favours a little delay in this instance. There are one or two legal issues that need to get resolved, which are nothing to do with the club or the seller, but they're effectively out of the hands of the seller. That will delay things a little bit in terms of formal announcements. But rest assured, as soon as we have exchanged contracts, you'll all be the first to know. And we're very excited about the capacity and capability of this site in terms of being able to deliver what we want, which is a unified solution for excellence for the first team, for aspiration for the academy, and for involvement of the community. So, all those three things are hopefully going to be able to be delivered on this new site.
Just to build on that then, without sort of raining on the parade with this, it's like we've got to go and raise the money for it as well. So buying the land, it's proven not to be as easy as we thought, and the other party pulled out. That's why we're at a secondary location now, and it will work out better. But as a minimum, we've got to raise £5 to £6 million to get the first phase built. So we've got to raise that money. We've got to raise it on a business that doesn't have underlying profit growth as well. So we will try our best, but there's risk. I don't want people thinking we've got the land, it's going to happen in the next couple of years. We've got to actively fundraise. So again, we're optimistic. We want to do this. We think it's right for the club, but it will be dependent on getting external capital into the business as well. So we'll let you know as soon as we can. But great to secure the land, and there's some twists and turns that still. But there's risk in the project as well. So I don't want people thinking that it's absolutely bolted on.
And when will you be able to tell us where it is? When do you think you might be able to tell us?
Like the manager conversation, we haven't signed a deal on the land that is binding without legal encumbrance at the moment. So if we sign something and we announce it and it doesn't happen, we look like we're not professional, and B, we can't deliver on something. So we're not trying to be circumspect for its sake, by the way. We haven't got anything that we can announce yet. As soon as we can, we'd love to get it out there. So it's in the hands of lawyers and third parties at the moment, which is interesting. Again, it's kind of that grind question. The last property, we put an offer in good faith. We took the land, and then they had a change of leadership, so they decided they didn't want to be part of a deal anymore. That was nothing to do with us not acting in the right way, but you don't control all the variables. So what we're trying to do is get stuff locked in, stuff that we can actually deliver before we announce stuff, not that we just don't want to tell people. We're not keeping secrets for its sake.
Are you able to tell us where that other site was?
No, because that would be the same as answering.
Well, as it's gone now, it's history, isn't it? So.
Oh, so the other site? No, but again, it kind of doesn't matter. Yeah.
And how do you go about raising the cash then for the new training facility? How are you going about that?
Well, a combination of high net worth individuals and institutions as well. So whether that's private equity in particular, but it's look, I've spent a career raising money for businesses that have a growth trajectory, an underlying profit story that looks like the future is going to create better cash flows than today. That doesn't exist in football. So you're trying to sell a story that actually you create equity growth, so the overall value of the business looks better because you have bigger assets, or you have a better trajectory on your team, or you have a better plan that people can invest in. But actually, the fundamentals of this business mean that at the moment, the higher up we go in leagues, the more money it costs us. Not that we make any more money, actually quite the opposite. It's quite a hard sell. So look, we bought into it because we have different motivations to making money, but it's a slightly different investment case to anything else we've been involved with before. But the other thing, the dynamics have changed around, like stadiums, 20 years ago had projects that would enable them, whether it was supermarkets or whatever. The cost of capital has gone up, the cost of the raw materials has gone up. So it's a very different landscape today. But look, we're setting off with positive intent. But I don't want people thinking that it's as simple as just going, we sign the land and then 2 years later we'll have the facility. We've got a long way to go, but we're committed to trying to do it.
Danny, you happy with that? Thank you very much.
Ask it again in 6 months, Danny, that would be appreciated.
No repeats on the BBC, come on. John is going around with a microphone to somebody else who's got a question right at the back of the room. And that question is coming from?
Question from Steve. It's for Jason and Andrew. Just if you had a magic wand, guys, which I wish you both had, if you was going to build a new football stadium in the Grimsby area, what would be your preferred location? First of all, to Andrew.
I think again, you have to. It depends on kind of dream in terms of location, or dream in terms of what it would be something that would be right in the heart of the community, from a geographic perspective. I think it would have to be, and we want it to be multi-purpose. I think to fund it, you would need to have other income streams generated from the stadium on a non-match day. And you've always got to remember that effectively a football ground is only generating income on 25 or 30 days a year. So you'd be looking to try and integrate it with other income streams that can generate things like whether that be integrating education, integrating public services of other types, or some commercial enterprise. A lot of football grounds that have been built over the last 20, 30 years have been built on the back of retail development, and retail these days is not a particularly viable enabling development for other infrastructure. More recently, football grounds being built on the back of enabling developments for residential development, and again, you're seeing clubs that are able to develop sites in a where, for example, they sell their main ground, sell their land for residential value, and then use the proceeds to build a new ground on the edge of town. None of those options really exist in Grimsby. So for viability reasons, so we need partnership with private sector. We need partnership with public sector. We need partnership with the local authority and central government. And we're open and ready and willing to do that at the right moment. We've gone on the record of saying that moving stadium is not a high on the priority list. We think we've got other things that need to be done first in that context. But from a location perspective, for me, it would be in the heart of the community and not in a soulless, windswept site on the edge of the A180.
My question is, where did you get this magic wand from? Was it Freeman Street, or? Because I've got a bit of news for you. I'm not sure it's going to work. No, and on a serious point, it's like I've got an incredible emotional attachment, like most of you here, to this place. So I think if we had a magic wand, I'd try and reorientate the pitch so it gets some sunshine, and I'd build the stadium around here, and I'd give everyone around here, a 6-bedroom house as well with my magic wand, and free beer at every game, and probably more hair for me, and maybe a new set of teeth as well while we're at it. But I'd like to see the receipt on that magic wand first, probably.
With that though, guys, since you two have come in, I think I'm right in saying the previous record season ticket sales was around 3,200. Since you guys have come in, you've had back-to-back season ticket sales of well over 5,000. When you sat in the stadium at a home game, especially if we're doing well, there doesn't appear to be any seats free, or very few, and the ones that are free, they're probably at the back of the main stand or whatever. You know, the views aren't great, and you're on about, you know, progressing and all that kind of thing. And I personally can't see how we can progress while we're still in Blundell Park.
Do you agree with that, Jason?
No, I don't actually. I mean, that's a fair comment, by the way, but I think there's a couple of things with that. I mean, one, you know, the capacity is just over 9,000 and we're averaging 6.5, so it might look like there's no seats available, but there definitely is, right? Second thing is that there is excess capacity that we could put seats in the corners that were looked at pricing and, you know, at the right point, if that's the right thing to do commercially. Third thing is, you know, as Andrew said about the enabling projects for stadiums, you know, a stadium will cost you 40 to 50 million quid now. You know, we haven't got that money, and that money isn't in the market to build a stadium with no commercial value or return on that capital at the moment. And then the fourth thing, I think there are things we could do at Blundell Park if we were trying to look at different stadium configurations and ways to get more capacity and beyond that, but it's just not in the scope at the moment. And I think, you know, the revenue that we can get by going up through the leagues commercially through TV revenues will be attractive beyond the day-to-day experience of Saturday afternoons. It's the most important thing for us, by the way, as fans, the atmosphere on a Saturday and making sure that it's a great experience for us. But there are different commercial revenues, so it's just not viable at the moment, unfortunately. And to say, like, we're filling Blundell Park and we need to get another stadium, well, if someone's got an idea how we can do that, genuinely, we've thought about it, we've tried to look at angles, but no one's going to give us 40 million quid to build a new stadium. So we've got to come up with a plan B somehow, and that's what we're trying to exercise our minds on. So I'm genuinely, it's a great question, and it's valid. It's not as simple as saying, let's just move somewhere else and build a stadium. There's 40 million reasons why we can't, and they've all got the Queen's face on.
Thank you for the question. Steve Rogers has sent a message through regarding facilities. Following improvements to the facilities in the main stand, are there any further plans in place?
So, in case supporters don't know, we did a lot of improvement across the summer on toilets, particularly around the main stand. After listening to feedback from our supporters, I think it's fair to say that the project that we've got a few moving pieces on for the main stand in the closed season is going to be really expensive. So we're always listening to what supporters want in terms of improvements, but it will be what money is available in that budget.
Steve throws some ideas in. He says, continue men's toilet renovations, still some asbestos-looking roofing in place, add additional bigger food kiosk facilities. Currently, waiting time and options are insufficient when compared to other stadia in our league. Replace roof supports with less to improve sight lines.
I think the food kiosk one is a really good example of where we as a football club have to try and find a balance. So, you know, we could try and get more companies through the gates to sell food on a match day, but those companies also have to make money, and if they're not going to make any money, we're not going to get them through the gates. So I think we've improved, particularly thanks to the colleagues at the Mariners Trust supporting us with that and what we're offering on a match day. We're always looking at that and whether we can improve it, but ultimately those companies have got a profit margin to make, and putting more in might detract them then from attending. So it's a balance that we have to find week in, week out.
Again, it's that point to the early question about, you know, the reality of where we are and the grind question. Like, we'll lose over £1 million this year that's had to come out of our pockets, right? So predominantly, the FA Cup run was great, but we'll make a significant loss again. And we're fine with that, by the way. But that means we've got choices. And I think, you know, we've got a stadium here that's close to over 100 years old that, you know, hasn't had a lot of love and care in the last 20 years. And I think it's interesting. We've got to do the remedial work for safety reasons, and we want to prove the experience. But like, if I say to you today, okay, well, we'll improve that stuff, we're going to take 500 grand out of the playing budget, you know, we'll be up in arms, and rightly so, by the way. So we're trying to do the best we can with this stuff, and it matters to us, and we will try and improve it. But I think this is where the throwaway comments about, you know, do X, Y, and Z all the time. You know, I've been a fan my whole life, and I haven't heard people making such demands of owners as they have in the last 3 years about facilities. And I think because we're showing willing, because we want to do it, and and it matters to us. We're having a dialogue and we want that. But I think it is just interesting, the tenor of these conversations, that we are losing money. We've underwritten that and we're fine with that, by the way. But it begins and ends on what happens on a Saturday afternoon. And I think if I said to you, the toilets are going to be a bit rubbish for the next couple of years, but we'll put every penny into the first team squad, it's a dead easy choice. But ultimately, I think they're fair questions as well, because we all want to improve it. So I just think getting a bit of balance in this sometimes, recognising the climate we're in, the losses that we're making, but the desire to keep improving.
Why are you making those losses after earning so much from the FA Cup run last season?
Well, we've made a lot of investments beyond the first team. So whether that's in the staffing, I mean, again, a lot of these stuff, they add up. They're not like, we haven't built a new stand fairly obviously, but there is £1 million of embedded cost in this business that didn't exist when we came in, and that's by improving infrastructure, playing surface. I mean, the list goes. I won't sit here and list them, but there's a lot of embedded cost in the business. The accounts are there and they're visible, by the way, and they'll be published again. So these are investments that have been made, and they're piecemeal everywhere. You know, the main stand will be 350 grand we've got to find, right? So that's a reality. But that's not work that suddenly appeared in the last 12 months. That's been work that's been needing to done for a long time. So again, the business has been invested in overall, but we couldn't just simply come in and say we're doing nothing but the playing budget, because quite frankly, the stadium probably would have been closed down. So, you know, again, this isn't a bleeding heart, by the way, is that we took this on. We're proud of it, but I think just a bit of balance in the conversation. I think, you know, I probably made the mistake, you know, getting a bit excited about the FA Cup money, saying it would go into the playing budget. We have improved the playing budget, but there's a lot of expense in the business as well that we've added in the last few years. Because, you know, what Steve's question today was great about, like, the systems and stuff we're putting in place is what services the lads have been able to do what they want to do on a Saturday afternoon. Better surface at Blunder Park, better draining here, you know, that we had to put in. You know, so there's a myriad of things that have been done that aren't quite so showy and headliney, but there has been an investment, and there will continue to be, but there are choices that we have to make.
If you want to ask a question, just put your arm up in the air. John will get round to you. Just on the subject of facilities before we reach you. Conditions for disabled fans in Blundell Park aren't great, says Carl Gladwell. Do we have any plans to improve them?
Well, I sort of talked about that before. Yeah, we've been talking to our disabled supporters group and colleagues at the Mariners Trust. It's absolutely on our radar, but it has to take place in the scheme of those general improvements that we've discussed around Blundell Park, and we're in a continuing dialogue with those supporters.
Thank you. Question at the front here. Gentleman with a gilet on. Is it a heated one or not? No.
Hello, Steve Kirby. I'd like to ask a question to Jason, Andrew and Debbie regarding the managerial position and the interview process. I totally appreciate you obviously don't want to mention any names and until anything's signed and sealed. I'm just interested, and probably a lot of people in the room, just to give us an insight. I appreciate obviously as a manager applying for the job, you're interested in what they can bring to the football club, attribute, experience, how it can help move the club forward on the pitch. But could you give an insight as to you as owners, what your criteria is, what you expect from whoever becomes the new manager of Grimsby Town?
Yeah, I mean, the process has been really straightforward, actually, in some ways, is that we had, contrary to popular belief, you know, and I tried to write an article about this, how we went through the process with the decision to move Paul and Chris on, was that we'd had over an extended period a look at the points per game we wanted. So at no point were we looking at a game sort of 6 or 8 weeks before going, the next game we sacked them. We said, look, there are things that we're less happy about. Let's see how this trends out to a certain point. I think at that point, you know, we did have the 21st group we were working with. We started to write the specification of the job that we wanted, and the clear criteria around, you know, the stuff that we've said is like a clear style of play, evidence-based decision making, and we talk a little bit about that, which is football is a game of passion, it's a game of art, but there is some science to it as well. And if you can put the processes in place and you can think about your decision making, you can generally get better performances, we believe. There's things about integrating with the academy, so people that believe in you youth and bringing players through. There's things about the community, so being involved, and it matters to us that we represent ourselves in the community the right way. So they're the overall criteria. There's a few more details in there. And then basically we'd mapped, before we decided on Paul and Chris, we had mapped the market to say, based on those criteria, are there people available? And then we opened the process and people started applying. Some of those were on our list already and some weren't. And then we got through those criteria. We had people apply against those criteria, a clear job spec. And then obviously that wheedled some people out. And then we spent probably about 10 days interviewing a bunch of people to create the final shortlist, and then basically go through the last week where we've been trying to make sure that the last couple of candidates, where we were trying to talk contractual levels, so we didn't just simply pick one horse, because these deals do fall over, and so we wanted to make sure we had two really strong candidates we both of them thought could improve the club. And then you also get something in the final, in contract negotiations, you also see people's character as well, like people who just want to talk about money, and like money has to be right, by the way, but anyone leads on that was out of the conversation straight away for us. So people that came in the first conversation that just talked about money, so people that care about football, community, all those things we said, and we think the last two that we've got are really exciting and hit that criteria. So that's kind of the process. Did I miss anything, Isaac?
How many people have you spoken to then, generally, would you say?
Oh God, I can't remember the exact number. We've had between 50 and 70 solid applications. Joe's helped us again with the initial talks. You know, we get both players and agents get talked in. So I don't know, between 10 and 15 proper interview type thing, where we've actually sat down and had proper interviews, and then last week we had people come and present to us as well. So there's a handful of people coming and presenting to us. So
there've been quite a few clubs looking for new managers recently. Have you lost out on anybody?
Not that I'm aware. To be honest with you, I haven't been focused. Again, we haven't been thinking. We're like, you know, and Debbie will tell you when we first met, I said, look, our job is to hire you and try and make you successful. And actually, I'd be really pleased if people go off to the stuff, but we'll tell you, we have to make this place attractive for you to want to come. So it'll worry less about the competition and what was going on, and say, look, we think we've got an amazing club with a great story and a great future ahead of it. And we've been focused on just trying to sell that. So genuinely haven't been watching that. But to my knowledge, no one that I've seen in the process has appeared anywhere else yet, but I haven't been paying a lot of attention to it. I don't know.
Steve, thanks for your question. Get a heated gilet, by the way. I'm not obsessed by them, honestly, just down one. That's okay. Paul S. says, why after 18 months do we still not have a sponsor for the upper and lower stands? Debbie?
So I think it goes back to my answer before, and we're really confident that the commercial agreements we've got in place are better than the ones that we inherited, significantly better. Money isn't freely available with commercial partners in the area. If somebody wants to come along and sponsor a stand, we'd love to have a name on it. But there's a price attached to that. We think we give really good value in terms of the naming rights, in terms of that being available on all of our highlights right across all of our channels. It's great marketing spend, but not a lot of companies have got that kind of money floating around at the moment. But we're constantly looking at that.
Thank you. Next question from the floor. John Tonda has somebody with him.
Yeah, Harry. So, message to the owners, really. You spoke about Ben and Sean being a mainstay in the next manager coming in. Will the new manager be able to bring in their own staff? And if so, how many people would they be able to bring? Because you've also spoke about money and everything as well.
So that's what we're currently negotiating that. That's part of the conditions and the conversations we're having. So again, if I've said no to them in private and I say yes to you now, so again, it's part of the negotiation that we're currently in. So hopefully that'll be clear next week.
Thank you for your question.
I'm really conscious of sounding like a politician, and I hate that, by the way. So I hope people understand it's not because we don't want to share this information. Anything we say tonight will be in the ears of the people we're talking to, and will make a conversation difficult. So I hope people understand that. It's not for a lack of not wanting to share. It's a matter of we're in a negotiation, and all information that's going out there, and to say hello to them if they're listening out there, that it will impact the conversation, right? So we've just got to be careful about that.
I think one thing I'd add is, as Jason said earlier on, one of the key criteria for us has been making sure that we retain a solid base of within the club on a continuous basis. You see clubs where you have the entire backroom staff leave, and then a whole new backroom staff come in, and we just don't want that. We want the continuity within the organisation, and also we want to also hopefully find someone who Ben and Sean can grow with and be mentored by as part of that continuity within the organisation.
And why wouldn't we? Because we've got some amazing staff behind the football team at Blundell Park. You know, I see that week in, week out. Straight after the Donny game, as Sean alluded to earlier, we had all of the staff that support the first team on a Zoom call on the Sunday, all of them sticking their hands up to say, how can we help? What do you need? What can we get done? We see that week in, week out, whether we're doing well or not so well. So I think it talks to our values that we value those people. And it's important to say that. They all work incredibly hard at Cheapside.
Can I just add on that like the just my opinion, but some of the staff we've got in there are actually really good. You know, we talk about working hard, good people, things like they're actually really, really good at their jobs. And we sometimes in Grimsby it's hard to sometimes attract players here because of location. Actually, I'd say in this case it's a strength of ours, because I think we'd lose some of our first team staff to other clubs if we were in a, you know, where it's easier for them to travel and go to other clubs. So actually it becomes a strength for us as well at sometimes, as in terms of actually by our location. Actually, it probably stops some of the bigger clubs being able to take one or two of the members of staff that we've got in there. Just my opinion, obviously, of course, and everybody's entitled to their own. But we have got some good staff, not just hard workers and good people. I think that's really important to understand that.
Nick Greenland says, obviously Jason stated they looked at the data when sacking Mr. Hurst, which I believe he said went back 6 weeks. Did you, in that 6 week time frame, have new managers in mind who could replace Paul?
No, so again, I don't want people thinking that we're sat there. And I don't know if you saw. I wrote an article in the Guardian this week about trying to explain that we're not sat there like robots looking at spreadsheets trying to say the world's explained through data. But in all of our decisions that we've tried to make, we're trying to bring information in that helps us make a less emotional decision and try and make a more informed decision. And we didn't go back 6 weeks thinking. Again, we're looking for one thing to happen, that we're sacking a particular manager. There were performances that we were less happy with, but at no stage were we going one game to the. But we did set a plan at the beginning of the season about average points per game that we wanted to achieve, and there's a bunch of other metrics we looked at. But the points per game was a really interesting one. Alongside, there's an emotional response to the luck that we were having, and can we change the luck, which I put in my article. Sometimes the data tells you one thing and only takes you so far. Sometimes there are things you don't know. You just have to try and change your own luck. So again, I just wanted to make sure people think that. But no, genuinely, we'd done a piece of research about when it started getting close to Doncaster. We did do a piece of research for 21st Group, I said earlier, which was like, if we were going to make a change, you know, what's the universe of managers or first team coaches or head coaches that would fit with the vision that we've got for the football club? And are they available? Are they not? But what we didn't want to do, and we wanted to act in good faith, that until that decision had been made, and we'd spoken to Paul and Chris, who, again, let's remember, like, have given us some of our best memories as a football fan, let alone being, you know, involved with the ownership of the last couple of years for us. At moments have been some of the best times for this football club. But in our eyes, it wasn't working and we needed to change our look. So out of respect for them, we wanted to make sure we hadn't engaged with anybody else or a formal process. But we had, over the last 3 years in particular, we've been keeping an eye on managers as well and thinking about when people come here, how do players respond to them, how are their teams set up. So we had people that we liked as well, but we did nothing until we'd had that conversation. In fact, we did nothing until the Sunday morning formally, but as I said in my article, it was weird. I got a couple of applications on the way home from Doncaster, people expressing it, which was crazy. And just one final thing, just to be really clear on that day at Doncaster, because again, this is the grind question again, but one of the things that bothered me is like the reason we did it on the day was what we thought actually we'd had the data that led to that decision, and we thought, oh well, actually most people would call the manager in the following day, but Chris lives in Birmingham. Paul lives near Sheffield. What we didn't want to do is pull them away from their families on a day to a neutral location for an obvious conversation. So, but it was really thoughtful and precise what we were trying to do on that day. So when people said, "Oh, this looks like Fenty," a gut reaction, I thought, just give us a bit of faith that we're trying to be thoughtful and empathetic in this situation. But again, that was one of those moments where we're like, actually, even when you're trying to do the right thing by people, people start to call you out. So
had you been in dialogue with Paul and Chris about the need to improve prior to the Doncaster game?
No, well, look, we'd set out clear objectives, so they knew our expectations. I think it's a really fruitless conversation for an owner to go into a manager and say we need to win games, right? They're absolute competitors. That's what they're trying to do, one way or another, rightly or wrong. Every day they go out on a football pitch. So there was no conversation where we said, if you don't do this, then this will happen. That is not a conversation that needed to happen. But we were really clear on the expectations at the beginning of the season of what we need to look like. And so, yeah, no, there was no... And they, look, they're professionals and...
Sure. Did you have to think long and hard, though, about how you were going to approach it?
Definitely.
Because you were in uncharted territory,
Absolutely. No, we had... I came home... I was on holiday the week before Doncaster on holiday in Turkey, and I came home early from the holiday because... And we were speaking for the best part of 6 weeks, but in the last couple of weeks... there were a couple of performances. So we tend to have a little write-up on the games around, the data behind it, but also about how we feel. Did we get unlucky? Should we got more out of the game? So you do the data bit, then you go, how do we feel about this? And there was just a succession of games where we thought we should have got more out of, or it just didn't look like soft goals, or actually we were focusing too much on their game rather than ours. And then, and then about a week before, the three of us came together and we said, look, this is what needs to happen next weekend at Doncaster. And we wrote a systemised plan of what we need to do, who we need to speak to. And what I really liked about it, there's nothing positive about the conversation, but actually being, working with Debbie and Andrew, our professional, and how systemised and how thoughtful about how we want to communicate, how we want to think about the individual situations of Chris and Paul. We spent a week really rehearsing and thinking about the scenarios to make sure we landed it as well as possible. But it was horrible. It was horrible because it's people's livelihoods, it's people we like and love and have given us some amazing moments together. So in that moment, but our obligation, and this is how we remind ourselves, is to the football club and improving it. So once you get through that, it should feel bad, and it should always feel bad, but we're really crystal clear. Our obligation is to improve in this organisation. So it was a really hard emotion from the heart, but a really clear one from the head.
Nick goes on to ask, was Chris Doig thought of as a potential candidate? If not, what reasons as to why?
He was, yeah. But we thought in the couple of weeks before, one of the scenarios was that, and we just thought that actually we thought that when we thought about the overall market and what we could do, got a lot of respect for Chris, both as a person, as a footballer, and as a coach. But we thought we needed a wholesale change.
Another question: does Sean Pearson have the necessary coaching badges to take the job full time, and would he fit the criteria you're looking for?
I don't currently have. I'm currently doing my licence, so in the process of doing that, and and then regarding the criteria, I don't know.
That's not one you can answer, is it?
Yeah. I think, and I think everyone in this room will know that, like, what we've seen over the last few weeks clearly demonstrates that both Ben and Sean have a long and prosperous future in the game of football, and we hope it'll be at Grimsby Town. We have to live up to their expectations as professionals as well, but it's pretty clear they have all the attributes, and if we get the experience around that, then it's undoubted for me that there will be managers of football clubs, and hopefully this one in the very near future.
Ben, have you got your badges?
I've got them all, Matt, yeah. Luckily I lived near to St George's Park when I was at Derby and Sheffield and Nottingham, so I thought I'll go and do them quite early. So, yeah, I've ticked that box, thankfully.
Have you got your pro licence as well?
No, I've not got my pro. Too expensive, that, man.
Just for the record, Matt, anyone that doesn't have their pro licence that takes a head coach role has, I think it's either 2 or 3 years to get those qualifications anyway. So it is a little bit of a red herring.
Okay, thank you. And
you haven't asked Ben whether he wants to be a manager.
I was coming on to that. Would you like to be a manager one day, Ben?
Probably ask the chairman that one.
Like a game of tennis, this, isn't it? Another question from Nick. He says, obviously our neighbours at Sincil Bank have appointed a highly regarded under-23s manager. Is that a route you intend to go down, rather than an experienced manager who has league experience?
There's like 1,000 variations of the same question. We've definitely looked at that as an option. And I think over the next week or so, hopefully, it'll be clear. But we definitely looked at that as an option.
Just trying to do these questions justice. Right, next one from the floor. Who wants to ask a question? Hand's gone up there on the left wing. John Tonder's just moving his way around. Gentleman in the cap, your name is, sir?
My name's Clive, and my question is, are there any plans to fill in the corners to get increased attendance?
Again, that's something that we're looking at and evaluating on a consistent basis. I suspect the voices for that will get louder as the second half of the season unfolds, and we go up the league, and we get the bigger teams into London Park. 'Cause obviously we've had quite a run of relatively small away attendances, but it is something we're looking at, but we do need to assess the viability, because there's a cost benefit analysis to be thought about around how many times you actually will fill those seats.
Thanks for the question. Are you all enjoying yourselves tonight, by the way? Hope you are.
Just to us, or?
Yeah. It's coming round to you. Harry Gibbs has asked the question, why do we have multiple defending coaches and no attacking ones?
Hang on a minute.
Surely we need attackers so we can finish high up in the playoffs and do well in future seasons. All the best, says Harry.
I played 600 games at left wing. He's having me off, hasn't he? Scored 100 goals. No, we get that one all the time.
Is it a legitimate point, though, looking at it in all seriousness?
No.
People have said in recent times, too many defenders on the coaching staff, no attacking coaches. What would you say, Jason?
No.
Oh,
sorry.
No. Okay. Why do you say that?
Because coaching's nothing to do with the position you played. It's about how you see the game. It's about how you then can work with players to develop players. Sorry, Jason, to jump on there, but it's about you. You look at some of the top managers, top coaches. The type of team, the style of team that they then produce is not always necessarily, doesn't always replicate their careers as players.
Unless you're a goalie.
Well, exactly, yeah. But for example, and even in our league at the minute, Mike Williamson, centre half for Newcastle. You look at the way his team plays football at Gateshead, who I've watched a few times over the last year, and just started watching obviously MK Dons next week.
Does he have a striker coach on his staff? Do you know?
I don't know, but what I would say is...
And how many clubs nowadays go
I'll be honest with you, I played in the game 16 years. I've never had a striker coach or a defender coach or anything like that.
But some clubs do go down that route, don't they?
I think it's more in name than actually...
Right.
So, for example, we were really fortunate, went to Man United on Monday and we watched their coaching staff in action, and they obviously have names as in terms of what they are, but actually, and I know we only saw one day, so it could change, but... when the strikers did the finishing at the end, the so-called striker coach didn't take that session. So what I would say is it's probably a team of coaches, and I think where football is going is how can you get the best out of a team of coaches. So, for example, talking to Alan Buckley a couple of times recently, and he was saying to me about when he coached, it's very much like he would lead out on the training pitch. I think where football's going to now, what we watched the other day is actually within one session you could have 3 or 4 coaches coaching within one session, and how you get the best. So you might have somebody leading that still, but it's about your message being clear as a group, and then where your strengths lie individually within that coaching team, I think is really important, and that's where you'll see a change. So for example, I was a defender obsessed with clean sheets as a player, but I think in the 4 games me and Ben have taken so far, it's not been replicated at all, as in terms of the way I was as a player, as in terms of how I want my team to.
How bothered are you by that then, as a former defender?
100%, yeah, I want it to be better, but my whole idea of football is, well, if we can create more chances and score more goals than the opposition, eventually I think if we can get to a point where in a more confident place and you get 2 goals in front, you will end up keeping clean sheets easier anyway.
And you mentioned Alan Buckley there. People will be naturally listening to that and thinking, oh, what's his part been recently? How's he helped you?
Can I jump? So people might not know this, that Alan's been a real ally for us. I mean, he comes to a lot of games and we often pick up the phone to him and pick his a wealth of experience. He's a lot of a softer character than I remember from the 80s now, so he's a bit more chat. But we do. Alan's around and about, and has been a font of wisdom for us as well. So I think he's been down a few times, hasn't he?
He's been in a couple of times, popped in this afternoon actually, and it just I've always got on really well with Alan, so he just offers his support really as much as anything. He's not having any say on the team or the style or anything like that. Just as in terms of if I want to have a chat, anything like that. And we've been really lucky. Like Colin Walker out the academy set up, good experience. He's again sort of overseeing nothing to do with the playing or anything like that, but more as us. So when we've delivered what we've delivered, actually just to feed back to us, like afterwards, sit down and, well, thought this was good, thought you maybe could have done this, little bits like that, rather than, because we might sit there and we might think it was great or terrible, either or, in terms of our delivery of what we're doing, but actually someone to be able to just advise us, that was good, maybe how about thinking about this, or and Colin's done that for me in the academy for the last couple of years, so very similar, just in a different position, that's all.
Thanks, Sean. Next question from the floor. Oh.
Hi, Ivano. So a lot of people over the last few years have said that we've prioritised Scotch eggs over player recruitment. But what I've realised in this season, there's actually been no Scotch eggs. So I just wondered when the Scotch eggs will be brought back, and that is a question for Ben Davies. Thank you.
In terms of the Scotch eggs, I believe the date's the 15th of February. They'll be available. Lloyd.
I know. It's, thank you, Varno. But it's another thing again. So I'll come back to the grind again. It's like whenever we focus on one thing, people think that's the only thing we're thinking about, and it's amazing that people have such a low view of our ability to do even two things at the same time, let alone the 1,000 things Debbie's doing every day. So it's amazing. Like I had a thing the other day about someone said to me, there was a comment online about stop fanning around writing articles for The Guardian and focus on the hiring a manager. And I'm like, do you think like it takes me all week to write 1,000 words? But don't answer that, by the way. But but it's just, I think it's interesting that people think we've got a limited capacity and meant. But it's, but yeah, I do love a Scotch egg.
Don't we all? I shouldn't speak for everybody. Sean, a question for you, and Ben likewise, from Robert Dring. Why do we insist on bringing everybody back for corners? Surely it's beneficial to leave one, if not two players forward for the counter-attack. Ben?
This has been the main debate, one of the main debates in the office. Obviously, like Sean alluded to before, to maximise the detail and the data as best we can, we kind of split into areas. So defensive set plays are Steve Crowdson's job, so not blaming Steve. But first and foremost, we concentrate on defending the set play. There's fours and against and leaving people up and back 100%. But first and foremost, we've literally broken it down. We've watched hours and hours of set plays and defending positions and that, and we think at the minute in terms of what we've got, we're defending them well. So we'll go first and foremost defend the set play, and then anything after that comes into another category. But first and foremost, we defend the set play and we keep people in positions where we can enable us to do that.
I think just to add to that is, you want to counter-attack, you need space to counter-attack. So actually, sometimes by bringing everybody back, encourages to entice more players on for the opposition, actually gives you more space to counter-attack what you're talking about. Sometimes you leave two up, means the opposition leave three back. You actually kill your spaces in terms of where you then want to go with the ball to break on the opposition. Now, in general, we've defended set pieces quite well this season, and I think that when you look at it is in terms of data-wise, I think that would back that up. Touch wood, because obviously we're playing a very big side tomorrow, so that's going to be an interesting part of the game and an interesting challenge for us. The one thing we definitely could do better is actually how do we then, in transition from defending that set play, how do we turn that into an attacking opportunity? So bring everybody back, but it's not just about defending the set play, it's actually how can we recognise and how can we create moments where we can then hurt the opposition on the break from them positions, because you watch a lot of the top teams, it's exactly what they do now. Very few will leave players at the top end of the pitch.
Well, Gary Buckle's got a question relating to some of that, the way top teams play. So it's not just Grimsby Town, but why is it so many teams now insist on playing out from the back? It's frustrating that this often doesn't work and puts teams under unnecessary pressure. And Gary says, I don't think it adds to the game enjoyment.
I would love to sit down with Gary and show him our review from Forest Green last week. So we play from the back, and that's the key word, is from and not at the back. We're not trying to play and just pass the ball around at the back. There's a reason why. We have a structure. We have.
Why do you do it then?
Because we want to try and score. Ultimately, that's why we play from the back, is because the ultimate goal is to try and score a goal at the end of it. That won't always happen. Obviously, perfect scenario. So, for example, Forest Green away last week, the players start, and this is when we talk about moments going against you. Naturally, they sort of go back into their shell a little bit. We move up the pitch into a more safe position, as in terms of everybody move up, we kick the ball long. 3 times we did that last week. 3 times Forest Green got an entry into our penalty box from that situation. So, like on Monday, when we can review that with the players and I can show them actually they feel safer by moving up and doing that. Actually, we made ourselves more vulnerable by doing that. Whereas when we actually played from the back, we ended up having more penalty box entries into their penalty box rather than them coming into our penalty box. And another prime example is we're not always just playing short at the back. So the goal against Morecambe, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, I think it would have been the third goal actually starts from a goal kick. And another joy of mine is formations. Toby Malarkey, right back so to speak, actually is the right forward on that goal kick, part of a plan. And I'm not saying this would always work, but a weakness we felt we could expose against Morecambe. We still set up as in terms of potentially to play kick long. We end up then getting our pattern of play from that situation. So, for example, you see different ways of playing out from the back depending on what the opposition do. If the opposition sit off and allow us to bring the ball up the pitch easily, then just our thought on it is 100% that's how we're going to play, and we're going to get up to the halfway line in comfortable possession of the ball if possible. If they come really aggressive and try and press us, you'll see a slightly different approach in terms of we might play into the front man. We might play into, if we feel Toby's stronger in the air than their left back, for example, we might clip it in that area and want to take advantage of that situation. So a lot of it comes down to we have our structure, our way of doing it, but sometimes depending on what the opposition do, then is how can we exploit that. The one thing I don't like is just whacking the ball because you have possession of the football. Why would you just whack it and make it a 50-50? You have 100% complete possession of it. Why would you then turn that possession into a 50-50 chance? Actually, if you kick the ball straight, centre half generally are more dominant in the air. That's the most aerial dominant position. You're actually probably putting the ball in the favour of the opposition. Just my opinion.
To continue what Sean says as well, we believe now at the club we've got, in terms of attacking areas, we've got people who can hurt people, hurt players, can get at people, 1v1 duels, we've got pace. So in terms of, for Gary, we're not doing it for a reason. The biggest thing we want to try and eventually do without giving so much away is, can we get 4 on their back line against 4? Can we get 3? Because we've got players who can individually 1v1 hurt teams. So how have we got to do it? We've got to try and entice them out. I think there's no secret in it. When teams have come and sat back against us over the years, I think we have struggled. So what we have to do in a way, and one of the ways why we move the ball at the back, is to entice people out, which eventually leaves holes behind, and then that'll leave our killer players, if you like, our attacking players, space to open up and get at the opposition, which ultimately is why we're doing it.
Thank you.
Does Gary still want to come in? He's welcome to sit with Sean and Ben for a few hours.
Anytime he wants to, and we'll try and explain it with him.
Great, thank you. Graham Can, on a message sent through, says, can the current coaches in charge of the team, and more importantly the new manager first team coach, be encouraged to adopt a defined strategy for the taking of penalties? I and several who sit near me in the lower stand have little faith when we are awarded a penalty. Surely the pecking order should be decided well before the team takes the field. It is most disconcerting to see players arguing before the kick, as we have witnessed in the past. A regular goal scorer does not necessarily make a good penalty taker, e.g. John McAtee. My advice is stick with Gav when he's on the field. So, Sean and Ben, if you get a penalty tomorrow, do you know already who will take it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Not going to tell you that. Not going to tell that person because
that's fine,
opposition do.
But I just wondered whether you'd established that already.
They've got an order tomorrow, 1, 2 and 3, yeah.
And how do you feel about what Graham had to say there?
What about the penalty taker?
Yeah, and it needs to be decided. Obviously,
Yeah, but obviously not commented in the past, but obviously since me and Sean have done it, yeah, it's clear who takes the first one, and if he's not on the pitch, it's clear who takes the second one, and even if he's not on the pitch, it'll clearly take the third one, and we make them practice them. It's like in terms of training, you just can't turn up and replicate something. So same as set plays, same as penalties, they know what they have done before, but they will practice them.
Thank you. Anybody got a question from the floor? Give it some thought. I've got some more here in front of me. Adrian Budd says, we regularly hear of the successes of the youth players, but with the first team playing poorly, they barely get on the subs bench. And then he says, will we see a new management team that will be encouraged to address this issue? I think you sort of touched upon this a little earlier on about the youth.
Yeah, part of our criteria is actually having a clear plan from the academy to the first team. How successful we'll be in that in the next few years, it's going to take time. But yeah, it's definitely something that we'd like to see. I think we've got, there's a little bit of a backlog as well. I think to one of the early questions about when we dropped out of the league a few years ago, there ends up being a bit of a lost season where players who might have come to Grimsby have gone somewhere else. But we've got a really strong crop of young players coming through now. So our hope and our expectation is you'll see younger players coming through. That's what we'd like to see.
Tony Stark says, can we improve the online marketing membership system? Difficulty with linking multiple users together and buying tickets at the same time, together. Online portal is trash as well, says Tony. A thought from you?
Absolutely couldn't agree with Tony Stark more, if that is a real name. We're currently working as a football club on a digital strategy. We want to be improving our online shop website. We want to be improving our ticketing system. And most importantly, we want all that to talk to one another. These projects are fairly extensive and costly, but we would hope that we'd have some improvements for the start of next season. Now, we would hope. Obviously you always hit a few IT difficulties with projects like this, but that's absolutely the aspiration in terms of that continuous improvement.
Stuart Aitken says the quality of the kit is widespread, spoken about as poor quality among the fan base, or at least the ones I've spoken to. Is it possible to speak to the kit supplier to improve quality? No problem with the design, just cheap quality of the kit.
We're listening. Exciting times ahead, I would say. Watch this space.
You able to give us a little bit more?
No.
Didn't think so. I thought I'd ask, though. Marcus Fox says, what can be done about the disruption to minute silences from the executive boxes? Yet again, the moment of respect was ruined by laughter, shouting, bumping and banging. I don't know whether it's a lack of respect, remoteness from what's going on outside, or poor organisation inside. Have you thought on that?
That's news to us, Matt.
Okay.
Thank you for raising it. It's not something that's been brought to our attention, but clearly it's something we'll keep an eye on going forward. I think we're a really respectful club. The minute silence that I witnessed over the last 3 seasons have, been particularly moving, as it often is in Blundell Park when we've got a packed house. So that's on our radar now. Thank you.
Thank you. Just over 2 minutes of the programme to go. This is from View from the Finders podcast. In a recent interview, you called reading a superpower that's available to all. Is there a book that you've read that has guided you the most during your time of being chair of Grimsby Town? You're a bookworm, aren't you? You read lots of books.
Yes. Oh, there's loads actually. So, last couple of years, Christoph Beerman, he wrote a book called Football Hackers I really like. John Gordon, a book called You Win in the Locker Room First. We had the privilege, we went to Ghana, we met Pippa Grange, a sports psychologist. She wrote an amazing book called Fearless. A philosopher called Simon Critchley, a book called What We Think About When We Think About Football. So I could go on. Yeah, there's loads. I try and get to at least a couple of books every month. So for me, trying to absorb that information. But there's loads of good literature on football out there. But those are probably some ones off the top of my head.
Thank you for your time tonight, everybody, on the panel. It is appreciated. We've got a minute and a half left of the show. And thanks for all your questions, by the way, if you've sent one in or asked one this evening. How do you see tomorrow's game, chaps, against Sutton? The leakiest defence in the EFL. You didn't need to hear that.
Set it up like that, yeah. No, it'd be... I know this is cliche, it'd be another tough game. They're position-wise, obviously just below us, but as in terms of recent form, pretty similar, really, before Tuesday night. 2 wins, 2 draws. They look more like the Sutton team we would have faced over the last couple of years anyway. Well organised, big, strong, and actually pretty direct in their initial approach. But actually, once you get into the mid part of the game, mid phase, so to speak, they have some good players with the ball, some dangerous players in wide areas, and the fullbacks look to join in at times. So obviously, lots of problems on that side. But like we've sort of persisted with throughout our little spell in charges, we'll try and contain them, and then. Our main plan is how can we impose ourselves on the game? How can we get our...
We'll have to leave it there, Sean.
Sorry, Matt.
Thank you ever so much, because we're up against the clock. But thank you so much to everybody who's been here tonight at Blundell Park. Commentary of the Mariners tomorrow against Sutton is live here on BBC Radio. It's live on digital radio. Saturday Sport underway from 2 o'clock. I'm in the chair from Blundell Park. We'll talk again soon.